Hi everyone, welcome back to Wednesdays with Wynton. My name is Madeline Gardner. I'm the PR and External Comms Manager for Jazz Lincoln Center, and thanks for coming by again for another Wednesdays with Wynton. Wynton will be joining us in just a moment for a Q&A here on Instagram Live. So if you guys want to go ahead and start asking any of your questions down in the comments, I will try to get to as many of them as possible. And so Wynton will be joining us in just a moment. Before he does, I want to remind you that we have a ton of global online free events and educational happenings on jazz.org. So if you head to jazz.org right now, we have master classes, we have educational classes, we have live streaming concerts. So we hope you can join us for all of those. And also today and every Wednesday, we release concerts from the Jazz Lincoln Center Vault. Today we released on our YouTube page Obsidian Mass. It's an amazing concert. I hope you guys can go check that out. And yeah, I think Wynton will be joining us in just a moment. Also, go ahead and ask a question and let us know where you're from, any music you've been listening to, what your name is. Feel free to talk to each other in the comments too. Maybe you'll make a new friend, who knows? And here we are. Hi, Wynton.
Hey, now, what's going on? What we
How's
talking
it
about?
going? Oh no, you've been dropped. Hold on one moment.
Okay,
There he is.
there you go.
Hello.
There's always a little excitement in here, some kind of way.
Oh
Good. How
yeah.
you doing? How you feeling?
I'm good. I was just talking about Obsidian Mass. That's
Uh-oh.
our vault concert today, and I have to say one of my favorite concerts that I personally seen at the hall. So I was wondering if you can kick things off by talking a bit about that concert, how it came to be.
Well, I spoke with Reverend Butts about celebrating the 200th anniversary of the Abyssinian. Of course, a great congregation, great tradition, and he's a phenomenal pastor. We had a meeting. I sat down. We went through the form of the Mass. I had done an earlier piece called In This House on This Morning. I think it was in 1992. But I sat down with Reverend. I went through all of the forms of the Mass, and it was so interesting, just his observations on how it is a dialogue with God in the different parts of the service and what they mean. Of course, but being from that tradition, I knew the Mass and all that. I was just trying once again to relearn material. I went back and worked on a lot of different things, did a lot of research, and we came up with the theme is the house of the Lord is a house of prayer for all nations. It's in keeping with my general theme and belief of the kind of unity of everybody and non-sectarianism, non-tribalism. And he agreed with it and gave me a great education. And I just sketched it out and started to write it. And we got tremendous support from David and Thelma Stewart. They supported that project, which was a source of great pride for us. And we went on the road. And we received Damian Sneed as my man. You know, I taught him when he was a kid in high school. He came in, he sang every part for the choir. And so you imagine one person sing every part, soprano, tenor, alto, bass, how much music that is. Then he went on to conduct it. It took us a while. The first iteration of it was a lot of struggle. Sometimes the music is so difficult at first that the second time we did it, and Damien came and it began to take on the characteristics of what it was. And yes, it's a blow for trumpets. when until we finished, we thought about the one difficult part we had. We said, well, let's just think we don't have to play this one tomorrow. But, you know, it's a lot of fun just with the choir, the extended family all around you. It's great tour to singers. It's a big family community feeling. And yes,
That's a great way to describe it too, because I mean, personally, I'm not a very religious person, but I found myself being very spiritual while watching it. You know, it really you connect watching it.
Yeah, I tried to put a lot of the spiritual traditions into one. I have the one thing that's like the Muslim call of prayer. I got a lot of recordings of the prayer and see the different modes and different things they use in different regions. And I wanted to make sure I wasn't being cliched and really follow some of the modes that they did. And I had other different types of call and responses, uses of, caught some really abstract things like the one that Vince sings, Father, please come sit with us now. Use the kind of triadic construction of melody that's very unusual. And to very traditional things, put all the stuff together. And yeah, it's a blow.
It's a lot of fun, and for those just tuning in, we're talking about Obsidian Mass, which we just released on YouTube today from the Vaults, a concert that was performed, as Wynton was mentioning. They did a tour of it and then performed it in the one that's on YouTube 2019 in November at Rose Theaters. So you can enjoy a full concert today. And so I thought we can go in and get into some questions, and to kick these questions off, I have one question of my own that I thought that these viewers would enjoy. And this past Monday during Skeins Domain, you talked a bit about improvising. So, when the Q&A part, a gentleman asked, how do you, he gets nervous in front of people, and how do you focus on improvising and being able to play those notes sounding good, but also, going with the flow. And you talked about the fundamentals of improvising. So I thought maybe people here might be interested in that.
Well, I think you always want to learn how to play blues if you're improvising in our style. And that's always just. You just play around with stuff, and you find 2 or 3 little notes that you can play, and learn the blues progression. It's very easy progression. It's 1 chord. Go to the 4 chord. 1 chord. 5, 4, 1. Now the thing about that, any kind of mode or sound can fit on that progression. So you can play. Then you just start,
It's that easy.
You start making up stuff. It's good to learn some lyrics or some blues. On one of the Skeins Domains, Hamilton Giolanda said something great. He said, learn songs and different. If you learn a lot of songs, you know a lot of music. So you don't start with W.C. Handy. And you go to opposite ends of the spectrum. W.C. Handy, Ornette Coleman. Ornette wrote blues. W.C. Handy wrote blues. W.C. Handy, Roy Hargrove. Take your pick. If it doesn't matter who you use, and just start to kind of put everything in between, because the modern music, you put everything together. The modern music is no segregation. The segregation was before the Civil Rights Movement. After the Civil Rights Movement, the thought is not segregated young versus old, new versus old, west versus east. That's old thinking. After the segregation, the thought is a continuous loop, a cycle, and a world of information that is connected. So your challenge is to see how it's connected. And that's the challenge. And that's also what was in the Abyssinian Mass. How are these things connected?
Amazing. Look at that. So, we have our own personal concert too. That was incredible.
The blues is a good way to start. Now, also the blues are lyrics. So good lyrics. I remember I was going into Memphis once, driving, and a guy was playing some blues, and he was singing, "That's all right, baby, baby, that's all right. That's all right, baby, baby, that's all right. That's all right, baby, baby, that's all right." So if you just start with that kind of sound, and then you just go from there, go from the sound of the song, and you have to trust in hearing something also. We always kind of want a theory. You got to do like how you start off if you're a baby. The babies don't start learning a language with a theory. They listen to the sound and they start to babble it and sing it, and then they start to fill it in with words. That is the best way to learn improvisation. Start with listening and then just start imitating and playing, and you're going to hear stuff.
That's fantastic. Start with listening.
You
That's
know,
and
start
it's
with that.
interesting, starting with the same thing kind of over and over again, and letting it take you over.
Let it soak in. You want to learn how to cook something, just stand and watch somebody do it.
Mm.
You'll learn more. There's a lot in that silence in that learning. There's a lot in there. You learn a lot, much more than you learn if you start from the theory.
So yeah,
Theory is last.
someone just commented, start simple and go from there.
Yeah,
That's good. Yeah.
figure your own theories out. Don't start with a theoretical understanding of a thing that is something. Because the theory is applied after the thing. If you learn Western harmony, you learn, don't have parallel fifths. But you study Bach's chorales, which is the kind of foundation of a lot of the rules, you find parallel fifths. They say, well, that's Bach. The rules don't apply. Most times you don't find those fifths, but I'm saying learn the sound of a thing, and then you won't learn the limitation of a theory first. Theoretical thinking is limited in the face of the thing that the theory is about. So, and it doesn't matter how complex it is. Everything from the theory of relativity, quantum entanglement, whatever it is that theory is describing, the thing itself is much more nuanced and complicated and sophisticated than that theory is.
Incredible. People are saying thank you very much. That a little mind blown emoji, because that's the simple. Sometimes we forget,
But it's something we all know. I mean, because it's not. We would rather a person show us something than to read what they have to say about it.
Right.
If you stand next to a person doing something, if somebody shows you catch it like this, or when you see it, okay, I see.
I love that. I'm gonna try to incorporate
Right.
that into a lot. You can incorporate that into a lot of things in life.
Come on, you know how it is.
All right, we got lots of questions here. Okay. So do you find any of your fundamental beliefs are challenged right now in the moment that what we're living in right now?
Yeah, my fundamental beliefs are challenged by how we lived every day anyway. So, my fundamentals were always challenged. So, and a lot of the things that I do, amongst the stupider things that I did in my life, they challenge my fundamentals more than what I'm seeing. So we all have a set of fundamentals that we know to be true, and we compromise them on occasion. And I feel that the greatest challenges to our fundamental beliefs are our own attempts to reconcile our own stupidity with what we knew we shouldn't have done. So I feel that more. All of the kind of dysfunction we're seeing, pretty much. I mean, you could see it. The kind of, you could if you could see that. So, yeah, I find that I'm still trying to see how we come out of it to know what's challenged or what's not. It's not a thing I can know right now because we're still in the middle of this. Our responses are the ignorance of a lot of our responses are predictable. And that's because of how we have abandoned our political process, me included, how we don't participate in things. If we think about the investment we have in our government, how much money we've spent on taxes and everything, then think of how little involvement we actually have. And that, once again, I apply to myself first. And I have to hold some responsibility to myself. And I have not participated on the level that I complain a lot. I've done that. But I pay, and I don't try to really make it change. I vote, okay, I do that, but this is going to require a much higher level of our participation, because there's something about when you're in a crisis now. It's not as funny being a fool.
Right.
Like you can laugh at a fool. Well, who's going for Congress? Oh, let's vote for the donkey. You can. It's funny, and we put jokes and we crack jokes, and all of that kind of stuff is funny until your life depends on their decisions. Then all of a sudden, what was a joke to you, or, I'll vote for this, or let's bring so-and-so up here in blackface, or, we're having a good time. No, we're not having a good time. So, we're all responsible. Myself, I look at first, my level of participation was less than it should have been. So I'll see if it's more going forward, but it needs to be more.
Mm-hmm. It's a good thing to take away from this. I think there's always something not even a light at the end of the tunnel, but there's always, we're in something now. What can we do to better the
Right,
world and ourselves? Because I think those kind of go
right,
hand in hand.
right. You know, an opinion is easy to have, but to
Mm.
solve serious problems, it's
Opinions are easy to have. That is very true.
easy. It's easy to express too. If nothing is going to happen to you.
Mm.
Now you could be in some places where it's hard to express them because it's a heavy price comes with talking.
Mm.
However, we can talk as much as we want and get online. You know, to a certain degree, depending on the sophistication of your information. But if you got barbershop level information like what I have, you can talk as much as you want.
Right. Well, speaking of that, we have a lot of more questions rolling in. Did Pop's singing inspire you as much as his trumpet playing?
Yeah, once I realized who Pops was, yeah, Pops is such a genius. And his singing, the way he stretched phrases and the freedom in his sound and his playing. I mean, Pops' genius is unimaginable. The depth of his understanding. I was once in Argentina. I was talking to a friend of mine who was a musician. He said, "Man, I heard somebody playing trumpet on a tango." I was thinking, I've never heard anybody play that good on tango music. It was Louis Armstrong.
Hmm.
We were once playing on a bus going through Brazil. We were driving in some, I think, Belo Horizonte, or some kind of town. We were on the road. And we were playing in the bus, and we were jamming, and we rolled the windows down because some cats were working on the highway. And we rolled the windows down and started playing for them. And it just like a road crew. And when we finished playing, one of the people on the road crew said, "Louis Armstrong." So, we started. Pops, has a kind of universal understanding of him. And his singing, yeah, unbelievable. Got perfect pitch, just always in tune, this phrasing, and the human quality of his singing, that he showed us how you could get so many different emotions out of phrases and create things. And just the stardust that he put on us with all the kind of way he stretched words and changed words and even Hoagie Carmichael threw Louis Armstrong's 70th birthday party in the Shrine Auditorium. And Hoagie, who wrote Stardust, loved Louis. As a kid, he would check Louis Armstrong out in Chicago. And yeah, Pops, you can't say enough great about Louis Armstrong.
Hmm. Well, and speaking of the greats, that this Saturday would have been Betty Carter's I believe it was 91st birthday.
Oof.
And I mean, talk about a legend, a great who fostered an entire community of, of jazz players. And if you can talk a little bit about your relationship with her, and also, we released on Blue Engine, The Music Never Stops, which was our first real Volt concert that we released. So if you want to talk about her, that concert, the album.
Well, she used to mess with me all the time, call me the Prince of Jazz. But in terms of just her genius and just the first Betty Carter, just her integrity. In the time that I was 18, 19, 20, 21, kind of on the New York scene, Betty was the ultimate integrity. Art Blakey, Betty. And Art Blakey loved Betty. If you go see Betty play, I think the greatest concert I've ever seen was Betty Carter. It was somewhere in Germany. I was in my early 30s. I went to see her. Oh, she was just on fire that night. And you think about when we started Jazz at Lincoln Center, Betty was always there for us. Darthan Kirk at WBGO. Also, they have a big fundraising weekend. Everybody support them if you can. They were a foundation for us. And Betty, Darthan, we needed Betty to do something. She was always in there. And when she did The Music Never Stops, she raised her own money. She had big band arrangements, small band, trio music. She had standards, her songs she wrote. She had such an original style. And she wrote these songs that had forms that connected in different ways. And she was an unbelievable teacher. So if you think of any box you want to check of what was needed at that time, she exhibited a genius and a thorough originality, artistry, absolute seriousness about the music. She hard on musicians. And we needed that. She teach the drummers how to play, and they have legendary stories where they're laughing about her. And she was hard on me too. We used to always, she would mess with me all the time. One time I got sick of her messing with me, and I caught her and cussed her out. And me and her was going at it, and she looked at me and she said, "If we heard that type of passion coming out of your horn, we would hear something." So, coming from the tradition, I loved her so much in terms of when I wrote the 12 principles for our organization, the number one thing is embody the music you serve, and the example for that was Betty Carter. So the first record we put out of the group of recordings we're putting out now is Betty Carter. So for me, she's like the end all and be all of something. And it all starts with her integrity and her belief in what the music can do and is about. So yeah, I could talk about her for forever. I really, it's the respect I have for her is, I don't know what else to say.
No, she's incredible. I think my favorite fact about her is that, you know, when she wanted to start up her career again after taking care of her family, she wouldn't get signed, you know, wasn't getting signed, so she's like, I'm gonna start my own label. Like, how this is incredible.
That's right. Did a great record, The Audience with Betty Carter. She had to, as an example of her integrity. You know, yeah, at that time nobody wanted, integrity was not even, it's always trouble when you want to have that in music, especially when something touches on an agreed upon corruption. You know, it's these kind of agreed upon corruptions that we know is corrupt, but we all agree we like it. And if you are a person who stands outside of that at a time when a corruption becomes very popular, you're going uphill. And she was willing to go uphill and was uncompromising. She was strong. So, you know, yeah, I loved her. And her artistry, I mean, it speaks for itself. The song Bridges, you know, just, I mean, that whole concert meant a lot to her. That she put on it at our concert. To have somebody put on their own concert, raise their own funds, rehearse the band, have original music, give a retrospective, sing on that level. I mean,
And for those just tuning in, we're talking about Betty Carter's birthday is this week and would have been 91 years old. And we're talking about the Music Never Stops album that Blue Engine Records released. You can stream it online this weekend too to celebrate. So if you want to stream that and wish Betty Carter a happy birthday, feel free. We've had a lot of questions, people asking, what do you think the music industry and concerts are going to look like after, well, I had to say after COVID-19, but when the world starts opening up and events start happening again, what do you think that might look like?
It's going to look great. You know, it's like somebody keeps you from doing something, then you have the chance to do it. What is it going to look like? You're going to be doing it. It's like, what did drinking look like after Prohibition ended?
Right.
I mean, this kind of thought of, you know, I don't see changes. People are going to want to go out and be around each other. I do think we need to be aware of the motion toward computers and cyborgs, and we have to be aware of the motion away from people. Because if you have a company, people become expendable, you know, and it starts with something you want to do. Like, you can work from home. Okay, once I have you at home, I don't have you in an office building. Now I don't have you in an office building, man, all of a sudden I don't have all these pension costs and I don't have all this health insurance. Now you're a freelancer. I can send your job out anywhere in the world. You're competing now so beware. That's my only thing. A lot of times things seem like blessings, but they're not necessarily. But I think that we will find, if we fight for our kind of rights and our humanity, we'll find a happy balance. Because I do embrace tools. I think it's great that we have this tool to communicate here, and I do think tools are fantastic as long as we use them. But we have to always be aware of abuse of tools. It's like you go in a doctor's office and everything is a chart or a graph. You need that doctor to look at you. So you know you want the graph, you want the chart, you want the numbers, but you don't want to go in and just look at graph, charts, and numbers, because there's the way those things all interact is always different. Another interesting thing about COVID is how it interacts with different people different ways. Now, there's a set of things, generally it's this, but it's not always. So if you're one of those people that's in that not always category, you know, as important to you. So I never want to just seed everything over onto, well, this is the direction everything is going on. This is what the computer says, or AI is the new thing, and we have to keep things in check. You have to always have oversight and overview and human judgment and human understanding, human compassion, human reason. These are things that keep us out of a kind of animal kingdom, dog eat dog, survival of the fittest. Because, you know, intelligence is a very powerful weapon when weaponized. Like when you can use your mind and then conceive of, and you prey on large groups of people, you know, we have to constantly push that humanity button and that reason We have to reach for that human mythology in the arts because everything is a cycle, you know. And so we do have to be aware of that, the desire to create a class of rulers and workers.
Right.
You know?
And oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, it's important to understand that once humanity is not foremost on people's minds, and there's whole categories of people who don't have a feeling of humanity, not on purpose. They're born with different levels of empathy and empathetic understanding. So once I begin to separate you into generations and the races into genders, man, you got to realize, like, I have you separated now. Now I can take that separation and use it as a wedge to separate you from your own best interests. So we just have to keep our minds on it and understand that it's not a given that our humanity will always be the thing that wins out. We have to fight for that all the time. And that's why I love Betty Carter, because she was always fighting for that. And her music, and she was always about the humanity and the substance of things.
She really was. I mean, it's
Yeah.
like we were full circle, right? You know, that's a great example of someone who her whole life believed that, and something that we can look towards and try to act upon ourselves.
She
And
really
also,
did.
and during
Yeah.
this time too, on that same note, what is the best way to support you know, your music organizations, musicians, and what is the best practice right now, and how can we continue that?
I think get online, you know, donate to people. People need a lot of help, freelance musicians, people who are working gig to gig. That June is going to be murderous because your hope starts to sink. You just, and artists in general, to support the things that you understand, you know, just, and for artists, don't be too proud to ask. People have been working their entire lives. They don't want to ask people for things. So reach out to people in any way, big and small. People are going to come up with things I would never think of. But of course, go online, donate to people, support them, set up any independent network. You want somebody to play for you, call them. You know, musicians ultimately, we play for the pleasure of the public. You know, and now we have the whole world as an audience. So somebody in Korea might want to hear you play tenor saxophone. And somebody in Korea might want to hear a certain tenor saxophonist. Reach out to them, get on their website, connect them. This is where we see how important these modern tools are. And this is we need a whole cycle of support and help. Like, I'm sure there are fans of Betty Carter all over the world. You know, I was saying Korea, let's just stay on that theme. Korean film won the Academy Award this year. So you can believe we're talking now, but someone in Korea can see that. And I have a student in Korea who went to Juilliard, perfect pitch, unbelievable student. And we played in Korea just 2 years ago. And I asked him to write out a tune for me, a Korean song I could play. He wrote out a song for me. We played it on the concert. I changed one chord. Jahoon is his name. He had unbelievable ears. So I changed one chord in the arrangement he gave me. And he came backstage after the gig. He said, "You changed the dominant chord to a sus chord."
Wow.
I loved him. I wanted to hug him. I saw him on a train one day. He wasn't doing right in school, and just randomly, I saw him on a subway train. And I sat down. I looked up, and it was him. And I knew he was a little older student. So I just looked at him. He doesn't talk that much. And I said, "You don't want to graduate?" And he just looked at me. It was really a funny conversation. So we went a few blocks, and before he got off on 34th Street, he was just looking at me. We were making faces. I was like, and he was like. Then before he got off, he said, "I will graduate," and he graduated.
Oh,
So I just thinking about Korea. I was just, you know, I don't know, it came into my mind. So how things are connected. Yeah. Wherever you're in the world, if you want to hear a musician from anywhere in the world, reach out to them, because they're sitting around, and a lot of people hungry.
and I know that you and the orchestra and friends of the orchestra have been taking, you know, this time to also do a lot of the collaborations, virtual collaborations, Quarantine Blues, the songs that you did for Memorial for Us All, which has been, I know that you have a lot more up your sleeve too.
Yeah, we're doing stuff. We're working. We're going to communicate through any medium we can communicate through. And when we come up live, we're going to start playing, and we're going to continue to communicate. We're up online before. Now we have to do it, and we will do it, and we'll add it to our arsenal. We're not going to look at it as an either or. Every time you have a new friend, don't mean you have to get rid of your other friends. You have a baby is born, it don't mean your great grandmother's got to die.
Right.
You know, it's a cycle. So we're looking at it like that, and we embrace the time and the change. We don't like it, but we have to embrace it, and we have to.
Your friend John Batiste said, "Yes, indeed."
Well,
He's here right now, and he says, "Yep, he
Bat
agrees."
knows. He's from Lincoln Manor, so he really knows. If you know where he's from, Bat knows. And you know, it's a cycle. So just like hearing from him makes me happy. I was thinking of him actually today because I was thinking when I was thinking about how computerized everything can become, and how the human element is easy to, because human beings a lot of times, you know, you're dealing with humans, you're dealing with problems. Like you deal with yourself. You can be a problem to you. Now you have a workforce of people, and all of a sudden you see an opportunity. You know, you don't need an HR department. You don't need human disputes. You don't need people fighting. You don't have all these things that deal with human beings. Now you only turn machines on. Or now you deal with human beings that are a long way away. Man, you're not going to see them. You give them some work and they give it back to you. And it's much cheaper and it's much more efficient. And I was thinking about Bat's Stay Human band. Stay Human. He has that on his things that he sent in. And at first I thought it was kind of funny because he's been having it for years since he's still young, but he was really young. And I think, yes, Stay Human. It has a much deeper connotation now. So maybe he heard that way back then.
Amazing. And I want to thank everyone. We're about to wrap up. I'm going to ask one more question here for Wynton, but I want to thank everyone so much for tuning in again for another Wednesdays with Wynton. We'll be back next week again. And just as a reminder, you can head to jazz.org. We have a ton of things going on 24/7. We have archival concerts. You can check it out on YouTube. We have educational classes. We have master classes. So go check that out. I hope you can join us for everything. And I'm hoping you can play us out here. We have a lot of people asking to play some tunes.
Think about Bat. All right, Lincoln Manor. Y'all take care. All right, Maddie. It's good to see you.
Good to see you. See you next week.
All right, Maddie.
Bye.
All right, now.